everybody, welcome back to another Python tutorial video. Today I'm going to be covering conditional statements, and we're going to be going through, we're going to be creating this mini movie theater age checking program. But before we begin, let's go ahead and just review just a little bit. So I went ahead and already wrote a little bit of code down just so I don't have to spend time in this video doing that. Essentially, I created a variable called fname to represent a person or our user's first name. And I just set that equal to some input so the user can enter in their first name. Exact same thing for last name. For age, do the same thing, except it's not going to be an input specifically. It's going to be an age input. So that's why you got to put the int at the beginning and surround your input with your parentheses. And then I'm also going to grab the email from the user. So I'm going to allow them to enter in their email. And then right here, I'm just printing it all out in a somewhat decent looking fashion. So if we go ahead and save this file and run it, it should prompt us to enter our first name. Perfect. We'll enter in, oops, nope, not right there. We'll enter in our first name. We'll enter in a last name. We can enter an age, and then we can enter in our Gmail, and it'll print it out in a somewhat nice looking fashion, nice looking format. So now that we have that, what I want to do is essentially take this age and use conditional statements to check whether or not our user is old enough to watch a certain movie. So let's go ahead and do that. So conditional statements, the syntax for them is going to be if, or let me see, I'll write it in a comment. It's going to be if, and then some condition. So if something is true, or if something is true, then we're going to have a colon, and then underneath each individual branch, we're going to have to indent, and then underneath this indentation is going to be some code to run. So what this means is essentially like if, let's say, age is greater than 10, right? So if age is greater than 10, that's our condition. We want to go underneath this if statement and run whatever code we have whatever code that we wrote specifically for that condition. And then if that's not true, we can write another conditional branch. This one's not going to be if though. This one's going to be else if, written as elif. And then we're going to have, okay, if the first one isn't true, we're going to have another one, and it's going to check a different condition. And then underneath this one, we're going to have some code to run. And then we could have one more if we want. So I'll just copy and paste this to save time. So we can have one more. So check if this is true. If this is true, run the code underneath this. Otherwise, check if this condition is true. If this condition is true, then run this one. Then check this other else if statement. If that one's true, then we'll just run whatever's underneath that one. And then we can continue, we can write as many else if statements as we want. Usually we have a default though. So if all three of these are false, and we just want some default statement, then we'll just write an else and then some code to run underneath that one. So it's going to check this one first. If this one evaluates to be true, then we're going to run some code. And then if it is true, we're going to completely ignore all of this. Otherwise, we'll check this condition. If this condition is true, we'll run the code right here. And then again, if it's true, we're just going to ignore everything underneath it. Then we'll check this third condition. If this third condition evaluates to be true, then we'll run this one. If all three of these are false, none of them happen, then we're just going to run this else block. And an else block is always going to get executed unless one of these three is true. Now that might have been a little confusing. So we'll go ahead and just go right into an example so you guys can kind of see it in practice. So what we want to do is we want to create this like movie theater program, and essentially just check a user's age to see if they're allowed to watch like R-rated movies, PG-13, PG, G, and so on. Yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So we have our age variable that the user entered right here at the beginning of the program. So let's use that variable. So we can say something like if age is greater than or equal to, that's how we write it, greater than or equal to, and we'll say 18. Okay, and then under here we're going to have some code to run. So we have some condition. Our condition is going to be if age is greater than or equal to 18, If that is true, then we are going to go inside this branch. If that's true, then we are going to print out you are allowed to watch R-rated movies. Okay, so we can go ahead and just test this one out. So I'm going to actually comment out all of this because I don't want to enter my name every single time. And I'll also comment all of this out. So let's go ahead and run this. Okay, so we have if age is greater than or equal to 18, we're going to print you are allowed to watch R-rated movies. And this is our condition, age greater than or equal to 18. If that's true, we'll run it. Otherwise, it won't happen. So if we run this, we will get, let me clear my screen so we can see all of it. There we go. So enter an age. If it's greater than 18, we'll say 21. You're allowed to watch R-rated movies. Okay, now let's check. Let's test out a different example. Let's try 17. 17, nothing happens. And the reason nothing gets printed is because we check if age is greater than 18. If it is, we'll print this out. Otherwise, we just go to the next line and we don't have anything to check for age 17. And then we could also do 18. So let's try 18 years old. And if we do that, we're going to get you're allowed to watch R-rated movies because, again, we said greater than or equal to. So including 18 onwards. Okay, so if they're not 18, let's check if they are greater than or equal to 13. And if they're greater than or equal to 13, then we're going to print out you are allowed to watch PG-13 movies. Okay, cool. So let's save this and let's test it out. So we'll enter our age. We'll do something like 16. So we get you are allowed to watch PG-13 movies. So essentially what it does is it says, okay, is 16 greater than or equal to 18? Nope. Okay, let's just ignore everything underneath this. Let's go to this next branch. Then it says, okay, is 16 greater than or equal to 13? That is true. So let's just print this out. All right, nice. So what if we entered, let's try 12. If we entered in 12, just like what happened when we tried 17 earlier, we're not going to get any code because we don't have any code written for age 12. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll do else if age is greater than or equal to, what is PG? 8 years old? I don't know. We'll say 8. Okay, so if they're 8 years old or older, then we'll print out you are allowed to watch PG rated movies. Oh my gosh, I can't spell. Okay. So now that we have that, let's test it out and run it. And we'll try 11 years old. So if we enter 11, we are going to get you're allowed to watch PG rated movies because it checks this condition. This condition is not true. Then it checks the next condition. That one's also not true. And then we check this final, 8 condition and, that evaluates to true. So we were able to print out everything underneath this. And remember, underneath each condition, you have to indent, which is usually 4 spaces or a single tab. Okay, so we can continue writing as many as we want, yada, yada, yada. We can write age is greater than 6, else if age is greater than 5, as many as we want. I'm only going to do 18, 13, and 8. And if they're not greater than 8, I'm just going to write an else and print out you are younger than 8 years old. So what this does is we're going to check if they're older than 18. If that's true, we'll run this. Then we're going to check if they're older than 13. If that's true, we'll run this. Then we'll check if they're older than 8. If that's true, then we'll run this. And if neither of these were true, then we're just automatically going to run this else statement. So we can test this out. Go ahead and run this file. There we go. Okay. So we will enter, let's try 6 years old. So if we're 6, Okay, we'll do that one more time. For 6, there we go. We get our else statement, which was you are younger than 8 years old. Okay, so, and then just to recap, inside these conditions right here, it doesn't always have to be greater than or equal to, or anything like that. You could say something like, let me uncomment first name and show you something. So you could also do something like, okay, if first name is equal to Hunter, and what this double equal does is, so there's actually a difference between 2 equal signs and 1 equal sign. So I'll write a comment on that. So 1 equal sign is going to assign a value. And what that means is I could say something like age is going to be assigned the value of 20. Okay? And then we also have double equal signs. And what double equal signs does is it compares value. So if I say age equals 20 and I want to check, okay, is age equal to the value of 20? I would use double equal signs. So yes, single equal sign just assigns a value, while double equal sign compares a value. And then I'm going to comment these. So I'm going to compare whatever value first name is and see, okay, is it the same as Hunter? And if it is, then I'll print out, I'll print out password. So we'll create another variable called password. And that's going to be some input. And we're going to ask the user to enter their password. So only Hunter is going to be allowed to see the password. So if first name is equal to Hunter, then we're going to say, here is the password. And then we'll print out, what did I call it? P word? Password. Okay, so if first name is not equal, so if it's equal to anything other than Hunter, we can just write an else and say, you are not allowed to see the password. Okay, so let's save this and run it. So we'll enter our first name, we'll use Hunter, and again, this is case sensitive, so if I did something like lowercase Hunter, this condition would evaluate to false because they're not the same. So I'll enter first name, I'll enter 28 for age, and I'll enter my password as, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually, let's just do hello. That's my password. So my first name was Hunter. Age is 28. We printed out, okay, you're allowed to watch R-rated movies because you're older than 18. And since your name's Hunter, here's the password. So let's run it again, but with a different name. And we'll use Winston for name. For age, we'll do 16. Password is going to be goodbye. And then since we're 16, we're only allowed to watch PG-13 movies, and we're not allowed to see the password because our name isn't Hunter. But yeah, that's it for today. That was just a quick few examples of how to use conditional statements. We'll go over more in the future. See you soon.